I just got finished looking at Christelyn Karazin's latest video where she talks about her baby's daddy, her black baby's daddy, and I had a had to get a chuckle out of this. You know, she's in LA, or from LA. I'm in LA, from LA. I'm a generation ahead of her. So I'm sitting here cracking up because I'm hearing her tell her story, and it's typical. It's just typical black girl shit. But before I get into that, let me do some setup about Los Angeles. LA has been LA has swirled for 50 years. You know, way before it was even popular. Maybe even during the 40s. If you a lot of good books about LA in the 40s and 50s and stuff like that um, are actually Walter Mosley's books. If you read his books, his really read his detective books, you can get a good idea what LA was like. The white men have had access to black chicks, since hell, man, since slavery started. Okay, they have. If you go to Ghana, if you go to Western Africa, where the slave ship stopped, they have whole towns in school. They had whole towns where they made for the mulatto class. So for the black female slaves, they got impregnated by white slavers or white slave traders. They couldn't travel. They just kept them. They would never make the voyage. So there was no sense in putting them on the boat. So just made whole towns for the mulatto class. So all those light skinned West Africans, you know where they came from. They came from the mulatto class. But I'm saying that to say this. Black men have been having sex with women in LA since the 50s. And if you look at if you read Walter Mosley's books from especially the Easy Rollins series, you will know that they've been having sex with white women since the 50s. It's nothing new. LA is a transitory town. In other words, it's not like Philly or New York or the East Coast cities where immigrants came in and they established themselves and whatnot. LA is basically a town of people that have migrants from the East Coast and the South and the North, where they all come together and they form communities. So there are no hard-coded communities, white and black, even even though they make you think that. That deep racism that you see in the South, where they get out and throw bricks at you and burn crosses at you, doesn't really exist. I mean, there are places where you might see that here and there, uh, but you can't count them. Plus, besides that, you've had a Hispanic class, indigenous Hispanic class, because a lot of times people think that Mexicans are Spanish. They're not. They're indigenous. They're indigenous Americans. They've been here for thousands of years, just like they've been in California for thousands of years. Now, when the conquistadors came in the 1500s, they spread their language all the way up through to basically the Oregon border. And that's why you see all those Spanish names. In Mexico, before they took California from Mexico during the Mexican American War in the late 1800s, California was full of what? Mexicans. So Mexicans had been here. White people had just started coming here in the basically early 20th century. So this has been a melting pot for a couple hundred years. It's nothing new. And then you have where you think the Chinese people that came to work in the gold mines and build the railroads. Where do you think they settled? Same thing with the Japanese. So this has been a multicultural state in a multicultural town from the very beginning. So interracial marriages, swirling, as you want to put it, is nothing new in Los Angeles. So don't let Christelyn Karazin tell you that it's something new. It's not. It's been here. Hell, Sammy Davis Jr., Quincy Jones and Sammy Davis Jr. were marrying white women out in public in the 60s. And we're talking about in the 60s in California where it was legal. It's nothing new. Sidney Poitier was running around with white women. It's nothing new. It's Hollywood. Diane Carroll and Diana Ross and a lot of those Motown women were running around with white men. It's nothing. That's nothing new. They were marrying white men back in the 60s. This isn't new. So to say that black women have just started to expand their options, expand horizons, is not true. It's been there. I was, after the Watch riots, they started to bus little black children cross town to the lily white communities, so that they would integrate. So you would have more of an integrative and cohesive community. And little black boys and little white boys and little black girls and little black boys and little white girls have been swirling, so to speak, in Los Angeles for 50 years. It's nothing new. Now, the in-group preference does hold. In-group preference does hold. You're going to still have 80% of your people are going to go for in-group preference. Not new. I've got a very good Hispanic friend. Okay, well, more than a couple good Hispanic friends. There's a dirty little secret about Hispanics, about Mexican men here in Los Angeles. Dirty little secret, right? Mexican men have Mexican wives, Hispanic wives. They marry Hispanics, but they don't have Hispanic girlfriends. They have black girlfriends. Black women have been banging Hispanic men as long as I can remember. White men have been banging black girls for as long as I can remember. You can see them drive through the hood, going to see they're going to pick up their black girlfriends and go wherever they go. There are mixed clubs, tons of mixed clubs in Los Angeles. We used to call it the Red Onion. The Red Onion restaurants used to have dance bars, okay, and that's where those were the mixed clubs in Los Angeles. You had to know where they were, but they're there. It's not new. I've been in places where, in my 20s, where you could go and you walk in the club and they weren't ratchet then. The little the lower class white women would walk up to you, grab your dick, and try to bang you. This isn't something that's new especially in Los Angeles. It might be something different if you're from Atlanta. If you go to Atlanta, or if you go to go someplace in the South, or you go to Philly. I've never been to Philly, but I hear Philly is very segregated. Well, that's what I hear. It's hardcore segregated. I hear it's tougher in New York as far as interracial dating. But here in LA, from where I and Christelyn Karazin are, that's not new. It's very open. It's been very open for a long time. So for Christelyn Karazin to say that black women dating out of their race is something new and they've been held back, that's bullshit. That's absolutely 100% bullshit. There have been black women having dating services for black women to meet white men for the longest time. This is nothing new. I remember I was saying on one of my comment sections about dark girls. I think this lady from the UK. She was a commentator from the UK, and why she's coming to my IBMOR site, I have no freaking idea. But anyway, we're talking about dark women. And I was telling them that they're very pretty dark women here in Los Angeles. I can't swear for any place else. Usually gets snapped up by Jewish men. Jewish men love very dark women. Go figure. If she's pretty and she's dark and and her body fits the white beauty standard, she's 9 times out of 10 she's got a white guy. It's nothing new. The problem is just most black girls do not fit. Their bodies don't conform with the white beauty standard. Black girls are a little bigger because I went to a white school. I know what they like. White guys or guys that've been around black dudes that have been around white guys don't like big bodacious asses. They don't. They don't like them huge hips. They like them slim. I've got very, very dark. I mean, very, very dark cousins. I mean, shoe black cousins that are slim. They're tall and they're slim. They have to beat white dudes off with a stick because they fit the beauty standard. Especially in Los Angeles, this is nothing new. So on to Chris Karazin, after we gave some background, on to Chris Karazin. Okay, when I first heard about Chris Karazin, and in some of the stuff she says in some of her videos, I thought Chris Karazin was the typical integrated black chick, okay, because of the way she talks and the things that she talked about. Okay, Los Angeles is a very large place. Okay, Southern California. Southern California has about, if you go from Southern California, which they say is from we say from Santa Barbara all the way down to San Diego, right? Which is about, I would say 200 miles of coastline, somewhere around there. 200 miles of coastline. Okay, and then from there to there, you have 15 million people. Well, now it's probably more closer to 20 million people, but you got 15 million people about the time Chris Karazin came up. So you got 15 million people in from that stretch of mileage all the way down from Santa Barbara all the way down to the border of Mexico. You have 15 million people. You have Asians, Pacific Islanders. You have Middle Eastern people. You have 35% Hispanic people. White people, black people only make up 9% of California. I think 5% of California, but in Southern California we're 9%. So black people have a very small percentage in Los Angeles. It's like 10%. So the thing is, for us, we're surrounded by Hispanic neighborhoods. We're surrounded by white neighborhoods. We're surrounded by Asian neighborhoods. So it's very common to see a black woman that has an Asian child, or see a black woman that has a mixed Hispanic child, and vice versa. You see that all the time. I mean, I was going to school in the 60s with mixed children, with little boys and little girls that were mixed, whose mommy had been impregnated by a white man. And the same thing in the reverse, where you had a white woman that was impregnated by a black man, but she couldn't go back to the white neighborhood because she had mixed children. So that's where she got dumped. She got dumped into the black communities. You got you got tagged as a mud shark, and you got tagged as a nigger lover, and that's where you got dumped. A white man, if he married the black woman, he basically could pull her out of the black community and go in. They still do have mixed neighborhoods where you have like a border towns or border areas where a white man can take his black wife and his mixed children. But I'm getting far afield. Chris Karazin, I thought, because she's a 70s baby. Okay, she's a late 70s baby, so she's a Gen X baby. Now, normally what happened in Los Angeles because of the drug crime in the 80s, what a lot of black people had to leave their neighborhoods, which is a lot of reasons. You still had even more mixed neighborhoods because you had a lot of inner city crime, and even to the point where some of that crime kind of spilled out into the amongst the white areas. You had a lot of people fleeing Los Angeles, and going out to the suburbs. And a lot of most of your suburbs were mixed. There were because of the California laws and stuff like that. It's very difficult to have all white enclave out in the suburbs. Okay, they changed those laws in the 70s, and they enforced those laws in the 80s and 90s. So any new community was mixed. So I assumed that Chris Karazin's parents, and I'm not for sure, I had assumed that they moved out to, they left and they moved out to like Palmdale, or they actually moved out to Lancaster, or maybe even Riverside, to flee the community. And if she did, and she was probably close to be a teenager, um, like in the late 80s or the 90s, as I assumed that she was, I had assumed that she was raised around white people, that white men were nothing new to her. I had assumed that, and I could be wrong. So I had assumed that it was natural for her to meet and date white men on a constant basis because that's who you're around. If you go to school with them, you go to clubs with them, you hang out with them. That's who you're gonna be around. That's who you're gonna, you're more likely, just as likely to marry a white man as you are a black man. Man, this is gonna get long. Anyway, so I'm assuming that okay, she started telling the story about the father of her children. So she's a typical college kid. I thought that they met while they were in college, and that's how they hooked up, and they had sex, and shit like that happens all the time. I mean, that can happen at any time. If this is L.A., you're in college. At first, I thought she went away to college, and that's where she met the dude. You're in LA, you're in college, you meet a cute boy that's a student there, and boom, 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 big bam, boom. Okay, you slip up, and things happen. I thought she dated a dude for a year or two. I thought they were that serious. They were serious like that, right? So lo and behold, I'm listening to her explanation about the father of her first child. I'm not gonna say baby daddy, okay? Father of her first child. Okay. And I'm sitting here listening to the story, and she's saying that she's going to Loyola Marymount, which, uh, not tell too much about myself. That's the area that I went to school in. Okay. Elementary school, and when I was bus, middle school, high school. Loyola Marymount is a stone throw away from where I went, from all three of my schools, especially my middle school. We could walk to Loyola Marymount back then and walk to campus before security got too high. We could actually walk to campus of Loyola Marymount as a 12-year-old. I was constantly at Loyola Marymount as a 12-year-old. So I know the school. Beautiful campus. If you ever go there, if you're ever in Los Angeles and you want to see a spectacular campus, go to Loyola Marymount, because Loyola Marymount basically sits on top of, I wouldn't say a cliff, but it basically it is a cliff. It sits on the backside of a hill, because you go to Loyola Marymount, you go to the backside of Loyola Marymount, you can see the whole Pacific Ocean. You can see from miles. Beautiful campus, absolutely stunning campus. If you want to go there and actually look at it, and you go down the backside the street of Loyola Marymount, you can see the letters spelled out on the cliffs. Beautiful campus, absolutely stunning. Stunning area, beautiful area. You can see the Marina del Rey, where all the rich boat people are. This is where the rich white people are. If you want to go know where the rich white people are in Los Angeles, don't go to Beverly Hills. Go to the Los Angeles coastline, starting from Santa Monica all the way up to Manhattan Beach. Basically Redondo Beach, and that's where all the rich people are now. That's where they all hang out. Lakers and sports people. Anyway, Let's not go too far afield. She's going to Loyola Marymount. Now, this dude supposedly graduated from Howard. I'm assuming he graduated from Howard as an architect. I'm assuming. Because there's very little way you can actually meet a dude from Howard going to Loyola Marymount. Okay. LA is a huge city. And I do mean huge city. It ain't like this dude is going to be hanging out at Loyola Marymount. Ain't going to happen, okay? That's not going to happen. Especially in the fucking 90s after the drug war. She is not going to meet this dude at Loyola Marymount. Okay? He's not going to be hanging out in his swag at Loyola Marymount. Let's get that straight. Now, where she met this dude, that's the first question I would ask her. Where you meet this dude? So did you meet him you met him in church? If you met him in church and he had baby daddies, you should have known everything about him. So evidently you did not meet this dude in church. You met him at a club because you're hanging out. Nothing wrong with that. That happens. And it had to be a quick relationship. Then you finally said it's a quick relationship. You was only with him for 6 months and you got pregnant within 6 months, sweetie. Come on. Come on. You were stupid. And then all the stuff starts coming out about baby daddies. So what do you think he's gonna take if he's got 3 or 4 baby mamas, 2 or 3 baby mamas? What do you think he's gonna do? Tell you the truth? He's 24. He's 22, 23, maybe 24. I don't know exactly how old he was, but he was slightly older dude, and you were a young chickadee that didn't know shit, and he was cute. Where have we heard this before? So you cannot come on YouTube screaming to high holy hell about black men and the black community when you contributed to the problem. You fell trapped to the same shit that other black women have fell to. It'd be one thing if he didn't have no kids and he was an educated lamb and doing the right thing, which is what you try to portray him as, and then come to find out he's perpetrating something different. He's the typical black dude that was around in the 90s doing the same goddamn things, perpetrating, and you fell for it. He wasn't a thug, but he was portraying a thug life, and you fell for all that. You fell for the swag. You ain't no different. You ain't nothing special. In fact, you're typical. But now you don't really want to own up to your own fuckery, baby. And that's all black dudes are saying. Y'all don't want to own up to your shit. You were someplace you wasn't supposed to be doing shit you wasn't supposed to do, and you didn't dot your I's and cross your T's, and you're talking about I messed up on my birth control. Bullshit. You know what the record of unintended pregnancies in the black community are? And you're a typical black woman. Nothing special. Now, did you learn from your mistakes? Yeah. But you're not unusual there either. A lot of black women learn from their mistakes. And there's been a whole bunch of black dudes that actually hook up with a lot of baby mamas. And when it was less expensive, it was no big deal. Now the shit's gotten too expensive. You wonder why dudes don't want single baby mamas no more? That's just expensive now. And the laws are clocking you for that shit. You can't do it anymore. What you need to talk about is what you did, why you did, and how you got caught up. That's what you need to talk about, so you can warn other black girls not to do the same thing. Blaming black men for lying, which men do, to get sex, is not going to work. Trying to portray black women as innocent is not going to work, because a lot of black women get knocked up for other reasons, to trap a dude, which we haven't even talked about that, have we? We're not talking about why you got pregnant and why you had the kid. What you thought he was just going to own up and do the right thing and marry you? Dude's not a saint, but he's not a perpetrator either. Just like all the other black dudes aren't saints, but they're not perpetrators either. You can't sell it to white dudes because they face the same thing. The only reason they marry their women more is because there's a lot more pressure in white culture to do that. And by the same token, white women are a lot more a lot more responsible with their wombs than black women are. A lot more responsible with their wombs than black women are. So this is a typical LA story. It's not unusual. You finding a white man to hook up with in Los Angeles is not unusual. It could have been an Hispanic man. It could have been an Asian man. It could have been a white man. Because LA is situated for that. LA is an integrated city. It has been for a long time. It's a very liberal city, and it has been for a long time. There's nothing unusual about seeing mixed couples in Los Angeles. There's nothing unusual about that. But you cannot sell this stuff to the rest of the country because LA, Los Angeles, Southern California, in particular, is not the rest of the world. It's not the rest of the country. And you trying to pretend like it is not going to work. Every section of the country is not the same. What works for you is not necessarily going to work for everybody else. Can't do that shit in Chicago. Okay. You definitely can't do that shit in the Midwest and like Iowa, Wisconsin, man. You might get hung. In Philly, you might get beat down because Philly's separated like that. There's a whole bunch of places where you can get lynched or you can get hurt by doing that. White men aren't going to approach you the same way in the rest of the country the way they do in LA. LA is a different place. It's a different culture. It's a lot more liberal than most places. And the strategies that work in Los Angeles aren't necessarily going to work every place else. If I were Chris, what I would do is train black women to be able to cross over. That's what, if you listen to Mad Bus Driver, he says the same thing. If you do what Charles Tyler does, Charles Tyler takes his crew down to Brazil to meet different kinds of women. But the thing is, he teaches about the culture. He teaches what to do and what not to do when you're down in Brazil. He teaches you how to adapt to the culture. And what you're not doing for your constituents is you're not telling the black women the whole truth. Okay, they have to adapt. Maybe your book Swirling does. I haven't read the book. But the thing is, in your videos, you're not doing that. Bashing black men, I wouldn't say bashing, but down talking black men and making everything the black man's fault is not going to help you with white men. It really isn't. You need to be talking about the weight and fitting the white beauty standard as far as body weight, because it's not about the hair. It's not about blue contacts. If you're 70 pounds overweight, blue contacts are not going to help you. Your weave is not going to help you. If you're a size 12 and you're supposed to be a size 5, it's not going to help you attract white men. It's absolutely not going to do it. Beyonce gains a few pounds and they talk about how bootylicious she is and she's overweight. She has to fit that beauty standard. She's got to work hard to stay that way. I have a daughter that's 5'3", and I tell her she's supposed to weigh 120 pounds, and she looks at me like I'm stupid. Okay, she says she thinks she's skinny at 150 pounds. I said, "Sweetie, you're only 5'3". I let her know. I said, your mother's is an inch taller than you, or inch and a half taller than you are. And I said, when I met her, she was 140 pounds. You can't be 150 pounds. Don't let anybody tell you that. You're supposed to be 100. We're supposed to be between 120 and 130 pounds. I wouldn't tell her that. Most of the women I dated when I was in my 20s, they were 5'8" and they didn't weigh over 130 pounds. Then that was the beauty standard. I don't know what it is going on with black women in food nowadays. Women don't, black women don't think they look good unless they tip the scales at close to 200 pounds. I don't get it. I've talked to so many black women that think that they're a stick if they don't tip the scales at 200 pounds. You're 5'8" and you're 191 pounds. You're not supposed to be that big. A lot of black women have that in their heads. That's what you should be teaching them. If you're gonna cross over to the white world and you're over 140 pounds, you have problems. Unless you're 6 feet tall. And we got a lot of black women that are 5'3" that weigh 190 pounds. It's not gonna happen. And they're in for a rude awakening when they cross over to the other side. You gotta let them know. You gotta let them know there is stuff that they're going to have to face. No, I don't know if Chris Karazin went to integrated schools like I did. Prejudice is real. Prejudice is real. And if you're going to be in a white community, even a mixed community, there's going to be a wee bit of prejudice there. Okay. And it's not as bad when you're young. I noticed that. It's not as bad when you're a kid. When you're in elementary and in middle school, it's not that bad. You start getting to high school and white people start to notice there's a difference. There's a class difference between you and them. Guess what? That's going to show up. I have a mixed race daughter-in-law. Okay, why you think she's in the black community? Okay, that shit's real. You know that. You know that by your own daughter. You're going to know that by your own mixed daughters. Go online and look at what mixed children say. Okay, they're not allowed to cross over and become quote unquote white. You're always going to be non-white. Until the 60s, there was only two categories. There was white and there was non-white. If you were in the mulatto class, you were non-white. I can tell you too many stories because I know a whole bunch of mixed children that had to go through that, and where they get dumped. They got dumped into the black community because that's who would accept them. So you have to talk about that, and you're not talking about that. You're not seriously sitting down and talking about all the negatives that's going to be there when sisters or brothers jump the fence. Okay, brothers automatically know that when they jump the fence and they have offspring by a white woman or by an Asian woman or whatever, that there's going to be a certain amount of prejudice that's going to come with it. Everybody knows that. You might get treated well, but guess what? If you decided to have babies by this particular woman, it's going to happen. My brother is married to a Filipina. My niece and my nephew are mixed children. Where do they get dumped? They got dumped into the black community. They identify as black because that is the community that will accept them. There's going to be issues when you marry outside of your race. There's going to be issues, and you're not doing your black constituents a service by letting them know that there's going to be issues. You're selling them the cotton candy dream about what it's like to go to the other side. I'm going to go get me a white man, and I'm going to jump the fence, and I'm going to be upgraded in as far as a standard is concerned. No, you got to go live in that white world, and you got to be judged not only by white women, you got to be judged by black women. Black men are not your problem. Us as black men, we're going to say something and keep rolling. It's the women that care about heritage. Even my mixed daughter-in-law, she's, even being down here with black folks, and she was raised by her black aunt, she's got to be careful about what she says so she can fit in. She can't pull that light skin privilege down here with us. And since I was raised in LA, and I was basically raised going to integrated schools, you talking about jumping the fence and talking about being in the white community, that shit don't impress me in Los Angeles, because we have a broad middle class of black folks in Los Angeles. We got a very broad middle class in the black community in Los Angeles, and we live all over the place. We live all over Los Angeles. In the suburbs, you got a very wealthy class of Los Angeles people, of black people in Los Angeles that do a whole lot of things because it's the entertainment capital of the world. You got actors, you got actresses, you got very well-to-do black doctors and professionals. That's not something unusual in Los Angeles. So a lot of that hood shit is very small in Los Angeles, believe it or not. Now there's some since hip hop and whatnot have gone on. You got a lot of thug perpetrators, just like your baby daddy is a perpetrator. My nephew went to college, was basically an honor roll student for most of his life. Okay, he decided he wanted to perpetrate being a thug because it attracted women. Black women are attracted to thugs, just like you. You still are. You just were wise enough to do business by getting married. The marriage and attraction don't always mix. So well, I'm going to close it out to say this. People know what's up. People probably have known what's up since you said you had a black daughter by a black man and you've been selling snake oil and bullshit. Stop. All we're saying is stop selling snake oil and bullshit. If you stop fucking with black men and filling sisters' heads with that bullshit that you've been filling it with, and you start telling the truth and being honest with what it's like to be in an interracial marriage and what it's like to attract white men and be in an interracial relationship. Black men ain't got no problem with that. We don't. We don't have any problem with that. But we do have a problem is you trying to build a business off the back of black men. You jump the fence. Stay there, sweetie. Be there with your white man. I know too many black women that are married to white men and they do just fine. One of our good friends is a white man that's married to a black woman. He lives in a black neighborhood and has done so for 30 years. Nobody has a problem with him because he's not on some bullshit. Okay? Nobody has a problem with a interracial couple. But to talk about black men hating black women and that other bullshit that the rest of the black women on YouTube are trying to sell is what gets you into trouble. It's what got you into trouble now because we live in the same fucking neighborhood. We're in the same families. We got sisters and mothers. We know the truth. You can't sell that stuff to people in the black community. It's not going to happen. Now, you might be able to sell that shit to sisters that are angry because they want to hear bullshit and they want to hear that sweet little lies that you're telling them. But black men ain't having it because we know the truth. We know what y'all do. As soon as we saw that you had a black child, we knew what was up. Because most black women that have white husbands ain't on this stuff. They don't down talk. They don't down talk black men. They really don't. They don't date them. They don't date them. But they don't talk shit about black men. Why? They got a white man. They're on that side. They don't go over there and start slamming black men, I should say. They have no reason to. And guess what? Black men pretty much leave them alone. They don't bother us. That's your preference. We leave it at that. But to take that LA attitude that you have and broadcast that all over the world is bullshit. I done seen 1,000 women just like you. 1,000 women just like you. In fact, where I work, you are the type of woman that I used to hear about from older black women that were married and had daughters. And they used to talk about she done gone crazy. She done got herself a white boy. And now she's on some other shit. Okay. I used to hear constantly. I would hear him say that. Or you would, my silly ass daughter, we done sent her to college, and she done run around with this boy, and she done got herself pregnant, and now I didn't send her to college for that, and now she got to go to work, and we got all this responsibility. Constantly, I heard it all the time. I've been through it myself. You're the same kind of person that my daughter is. You send them to school to do the right thing, and you think you know fucking everything. Oh, I'm 19. I didn't know nothing. No, you were 19 and you thought you knew everything. That's the problem. In fact, I'm gonna redo this one. I'm gonna do this one with the black women like Christelyn and Karazin and think they fucking know everything. So I'm gonna close this one out. I got a couple more things on the drawing board, but this has my attention right now. I may do another one. This might be a back to back. I know it's getting kind of long and it's Anyway, I'm gonna close this one. Big GS out.